Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen here. I think that this is... Peter, can you see it? Very good. Alrighty. Well, then I'm good to go. Good to go when you are, Louisa.
Alrighty, let's call the meeting of the Historic District Preservation Commission of Mount Pleasant to order. It is Monday, January 11th, 2021, and it is a few minutes after.
Louisa, hold on. Kate, you would be the one that would need to start the meeting because we don't have a chair.
Oh, I thought.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
Okay, and then just remember for everybody to put their computers on mute while you're not speaking. Okay, so I call the meeting of the Historic District Preservation Committee to order. The press and public. Sorry, the press and public have been duly noted of the date and time. I, Catherine Dolan Miller, am just stepping in as chair until we vote in a chair. The procedure for tonight's meeting are as follows. Chairman will state the matters to be heard as they're listed on the agenda. The item will start with a presentation by staff, followed by a presentation by the applicant, which will be limited to no more than 10 minutes. When appropriate, public comment will follow, and these statements will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Members of the public may not cross-examine applicants. All comments must be addressed to board, no exceptions. After public comment, there will be a final statement by staff followed by the applicant. At any point, the board may ask questions of staff or the applicant. Following the presentation, public comment will be closed and the commission will deliberate if necessary prior to a motion. Please note that any person with a substantial interest in any decision of the commission or officer or agent of appropriate governing body may appeal from any decision of the commission to the circuit court in and for the county by following with the clerk of court a petition in writing, setting forth plainly, fully, and distinctly why the decision was contrary to law. The appeal must be filed within 30 days after the affected party receives actual notice of the decision of the commission. Now moving on to tonight's agenda. Are there any additions or corrections of the minutes from the prior meeting?
We need to approve the agenda.
Whoops. Okay.
Kate, did you want to have them elect a temporary chair?
Yes. Now let's elect a temporary chair.
I would nominate Louisa.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Louisa is elected as temporary chair for this evening. Louisa, if you could take us forward here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Why is it just temporary?
Well, because we haven't, the election is tonight, but just down below.
Whatever. All right, let's proceed with the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented at the meeting?
I would move the motion be approved as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Unanimously approval of approved agenda. Approval of the minutes. Do we hear a motion for the approval of the minutes for December 14th?
Yes, motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Any nays?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. So let's go on to correspondence.
I'm sorry, Corey, was that a, were you opposed to the minutes or was that just a delayed approval?
No, I was saying aye to the.
Thank you.
It was a late.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Right. All right, correspondence, Kate, that comes out of you.
Yes, so all the correspondence was submitted to you via email, and it's also available by hyperlink to the agenda.
Okay, we're good with that?
Did we have any discussion or anything on that? I don't think that's actually part of the
Usually the discussion, I mean, the correspondence is shown on the site and everybody gets to see it, and then we ask for general public comment.
yes, so it's available on the site. It's hyperlinked to the agenda. And so yes, now we can take public general comment if you want to move forward to that.
Yes, I would like to see the general comment on any pre-published correspondence pertaining to fences for one thing, or gates in the old village. Is there anyone to speak on that?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please state
Okay.
your name and your address for the public record.
Yes. So my name is Joanna Geegan, and I live at 206 Live Oak Drive. And our property is adjacent to Mrs. Daly's property at 204 Live Oak Drive, where we learned today received a preliminary approval, but now is in appeal for a fence. And the reason why we're concerned is there's already a fence on the property that's in very good condition. The fence has been there for multiple decades. This is a National Historic Trust property, and the house has been here since 1855. So all the surveys we've seen, the fence has been here dating way far back. I can pull all that up for you all. But basically, the white fence she is proposing to tear down, again, is in excellent condition. It matches the existing fence on both properties and is aesthetically consistent with the historic period of the houses surrounding it. In addition, the existing white fence, as we mentioned, has been there for decades. There is no rotting wood. It's in great condition. There is one shorter section of brown fencing that does not match, and both neighbors have agreed that could be taken down. However, whatever is put up on that brown fencing section does need to take into account some protected trees that are in that area that are of large diameter. They're live oaks, and then the other section that's very concerning that she's trying to take down involves a magnolia that's probably at least 50 years old, probably more, and it would basically bisect that area. The current white picket fence that's behind the magnolia, is in line with the tree and all the landscaping around it. The only thing Mrs. Daly would gain by moving the fence is a few inches to a couple feet in some areas, but the amount of damage and potential damage and destruction she'll do to those beautiful trees and something that already looks beautiful is pretty significant. So we would like for this to go through the appeal process, and I would like to have the opportunity for the Historic District Preservation Commission members to see it themselves so they can see the property, take a look and see what they think would be best.
All right, Mrs. Geegan, excuse me. I saw what you're talking about. The brown wood is what we call a basket weave fence, which is certainly not appropriate for the old village. But as far as us being able to really get in there, I don't believe we are able to get onto private property. This might not be something that commission members are able to do legally.
Oh, I believe I've heard of that the commission members can come, of course, if we grant permission, which I am granting permission for it to be reviewed.
Oh,
And
what about drainage? Would anything cause a drainage problem for your yard?
well, that was the other piece I was about to get to. So currently, we are talking to the town because Mrs. Daly unfortunately blocked off a storm drain that used to drain from the rainwater drain off from Bennett Street down to Live Oak. And when she blocked that storm drain, what it caused was flooding into our yard. And so with that flooding, we've had some trees and shrubs lost with that. And we have been in negotiations with trying to get that unblocked. That's not been successful. So now the town has gotten involved and said that they will try to help with it. And so what is about to happen, and my understanding from talking with the planning department and several people there, is that they are in the process of making plans to redo the drainage in that very area where she's proposing a new fence. So if she puts in a new fence, it's likely going to be ripped up again in order to fix the drainage problem that basically she created when she blocked off the storm drain.
So this is not the opportunity, Louisa, where we can have the discussion to make any action on it. This is the public comment period. I will say, moving ahead a little bit, this item will be on the agenda for next month as an appeal. And so we'll have a full application and everything then. But I don't think the public comment period, we're only supposed to have 3 minutes per person. So
Okay.
to follow.
I just have one person to finish. There's maybe 3 more sentences to say. So I'll pass that on.
Hi, this is Mark Egan. I can finish up Joanna's husband, again, at 206 Live Oak Drive as well. And so, again, our concern is multiple reasons. One, the fence that's currently there is aesthetically pleasing, fits in with the historic nature, and is in good condition. The fence that she's proposing is a wire mesh fence that would not be as aesthetically appealing. She put, I think, in her application that the plan would be to plant vegetation along that type of fence, but she has about 60 feet on the other property line of that same wire mesh fence that's been there for 2 years, and there's not a single plant along it. So we're concerned that we're going to that she, in the process, would rip up 50 years worth of mature landscaping to put an aesthetically unappealing fence up and then not replant anything along that fence line. And that's all we have for this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's an interesting point. And also, if the town is going to be doing a drainage there, I believe Ms. Daly needs to know that she must hold off until that drainage has been properly addressed.
Yes, and so this is all going to be addressed at the very next meeting. We cannot continue like this is an agenda item, since it's not an agenda item per FOIA. We have to only have the public comment, and we'll discuss it when it's on the agenda for next month.
Very good.
Kate,
ma'am.
do I understand that the activity is on hiatus until that point?
Yes, sorry.
Okay,
The applicant has been notified that it's under appeal, and that everything is on pause basically until the February meeting.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Will there be any other general public comment on any correspondence?
Yes, ma'am. It's Chris Coleman, 118 Pitt Street.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to acquaint you with some of the correspondence I sent in. Much to my astonishment, on January 4th, I received a notice from DHEC that they had approved a dock permit for 101 Mary Street, even though I had been told months before that it was on hiatus and received nothing from us. I do plan to appeal that permit at my own time and expense, and trust me, that's a whole lot of work to do. Yeah, but I'm here to ask you for your support in getting the town to rescind an ill-considered grant of an encroachment permit, which in fact is illegal in the Old Village Historic District to do that. They are unable to build their dock unless they get permission to cross town land. and they are purporting to do so by a permit that's really not appropriate to do that. But town code, and you all know this, prohibits them from placing any structure in the Old Village Historic District off their property. So I will cite that to them. For those of you who are not familiar with the matter, probably most of you are, I have spent a great deal of time submitting information on this. I have tried to tell people what the actual story is, but the processes here give me 2 or maybe 3 minutes, and then a team of lawyers and hired hirelings come in, and they shout me down. And nobody reads the hundreds of pages of materials that I've submitted, including detailed histories of this site. The reason I would like your support for this is because the placement of this dock will shut off the remaining open water view at the foot of Hibbins Street. That is one of the agenda items for today, and it certainly won't help that area make it look any better. It's also an area that the town literally purchased the corridor for a dock in 1930 after the ferry company went under in 1928. And so they're basically building over an area that the town can and should have the right to use for its own purposes and not for a private party. Just so you're aware of who you're dealing with, you are not dealing with a nice, friendly local person. You're dealing with a financier in New York City who lives on 13th Street and is a vice president.
Mr. Coleman, I believe you've gone over your 3 minutes. I hate to cut you off, but.
Well, that's all right. I think you've gotten the point, and I would hope to add that item on for further discussion. And I thank you all for your attention as always.
And may I interject here for the record and for anyone who's interested, this commission, which was known as the Old Village Historic District Commission, denied that dock building 2 times. It went to the Town Transportation Committee, and they approved after we had denied 2 meetings.
And so I just wanted to confirm interject with some facts here. They still do need to apply for approval for the dock. They had asked the Historic District Preservation Commission for the recommendation, whether or not to accept it. That was my understanding of what those last meetings were. It wasn't actually an action, it was for a recommendation. So they still need to apply before building anything. So just so everybody knows, but yes, you recommended denial, but they still have to come back through and actually apply with the materials and the plans.
Very good. Thank you for that information, Kate. Will there be any other public comments?
May I quickly say welcome to Miss Miller? I'm glad to see you there.
Thank you.
All righty, we're ready to go on to consent motions. Pardon me?
Staff didn't have any recommendations. We just had the one item.
All righty, no. Then we can go on to number 6, business staff report about 237 Middle Street.
And everybody can still see the presentation, correct?
Correct.
So I have here a little background, all the ordinances and guidelines that it refers to. A little background about this application. It went before the commission and actually was already approved, but the reason it's coming back and not going through minor work is because they're changing the floor plan. When they started digging and construction started, they actually ran into really large tree roots, and they had worked with an arborist, worked with Eddie Bernard, the town arborist, and looked at tree protection zones and everything. But when they actually did start digging, they ran into roots, and so they stopped work then and worked with an arborist to kind of come up with a new plan to work around the trees a little better. And so that's why this is not considered minor, because it's changing all of that. But so BAR, everything, all the ordinances and guidelines are met. From the last application that was approved, the setback relief was granted for the rear property line. So staff recommendation would be to approve the alterations to the previously approved plans.
We all received by email through your hyperlink the designs and that information that you just gave us. And I understand that I can see how they had to work around those trees, and I think they did a marvelous job. I would imagine it's going to be lovely. And I would move that we accept the final review as
Montgomery?
presented. Yeah.
Ms. Montgomery, we need to have some, see if the applicant has anything
Oh, you're
Yeah.
they'd like to present.
So the applicant gets 10 minutes, and then that's when you can follow with discussion and see if there's any public comment.
Okie dokie.
The applicant, I believe, is on here, so now you have your 10 minutes. And I have your plans here, so let me know, if which pages you need and everything.
Sure. If you could, this is James Salvatelli with Herlong Architects. If you could go back actually to well, if you have them both like that, that's good. That first floor plan that you were just on would be, I think you're
Am I
up
here?
a couple more
This one?
slides. One more, that's the foundation.
14, page
Yeah,
14 here.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay.
So yeah, it's as you described. Both of these oaks, we thought we had enough room around them because there was existing house footprint that basically what was supposed to be new construction was following. But when they got out there, that the roots were extending under the house, and we did not want to disturb those oaks or put them in any danger. So it was really, the focus was the southeast corner of the house. We lost this bay and really greatly scaled back this corner room. If you look over here, all of this is no longer built, and then we stepped the house back just a little bit to regain what they were calling the playroom and get a fireplace in. The rest of it we lost. There was a large, I don't know if you can see my cursor, master porch, and that went away. We just have kind of a hood roof covering over it now to get a little bit of covered porch there, and then a simple porch down. And then we tried to keep as much as possible this component, which was giving it kind of a nice covered porch looking out to the harbor. And all of that will be hand dug. What you're seeing here, these dashed lines that kind of have this, that's the location of the tree fence that the arborist came back out and relocated. So here for this oak, and then this secondary tree fence right here for the second oak.
Okay, now I can see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I didn't think either.
Thank
You
you.
can't see my cursor. That must be Kate's cursor.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, good, Kate.
So, yeah, it's just, we basically just tried to keep as much as possible of the previously approved plan, try to keep the sort of views to the harbor side, and then we just stepped back to be away from the larger oak at the southeast corner. I really don't have too much more to say.
Is there anyone else to speak on this application?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Cheryl Shald. I'm at 241 Middle Street, and I think some previous correspondence I submitted was given to the council with this new consideration. I do appreciate what the neighbors have done to work around these trees. They're amazing. They're beautiful. I've lived there for 30 years and enjoyed those trees as well. Two concerns I have. One primarily is the fence issue, which I've addressed in that communication. The 6-foot fence that the applicant wishes to have is not consistent with the Old Village Historic District guidelines. Specifically, fences, encircling or defining a portion of a rear yard may be up to 6 feet tall when the parcel is not a corner, harbor, or marshfront parcel. There is a fence there. That fence has been there for 30-plus years, and not unlike the previous public comments, it remains in good shape. There's no issue with it. I would just ask for the committee to consider a requirement that that fence not be 6 feet tall. And then the substantial variance as to the placement of the accessory building, which I believe is a one-car garage. The variance is quite substantial. It's out of a 25-foot setback, I believe it's 17 feet.
If I may, both of those items were previously approved by the board. So that's not something we're altering. We were approved and received a building permit with that garage and with that 6-foot fence along the property line.
And I think with the extent of the renovation or the modification to the plan, it requires the commission to take a fresh look at all those elements.
So is there anybody else here to speak for public comment? If that's the final for public comment, are there any final comments from the applicant?
Sure. If you go back to that site plan, I'm looking, if you can look where that garage and outbuilding are. Actually, this is looks like a little different plan than what we have. We had one that showed where there are other small outbuildings in a few of the neighbors. There you go. In the upper right, that's a building on Miss Schoen's lot and another group of small buildings. And I think that's part of why previously this was approved. This is kind of a corner that 4 different properties come in at, and there were a number of small sort of outbuildings and sheds. And so in order to get a covered garage to the lot, they were approved. Again, this was back in June. The fence was approved at that time as well. We sent in the design and it all went through the board. So that's not something where I feel like we should be coming back to and address now if the board were to try to change what was previously approved. And I hope you'll just look at what we're asking for now and what we're doing to avoid the large oaks and make sure that they live on for years to come.
Well, may I address the building in my yard? It is placed in accordance with the setback, or at least it was done with the setback 30 years ago.
The public portion is closed now. You've had your 3 minutes. Just following exactly by procedure here. It's now time for the board to actually deliberate and to take comment, or for the board to have comments.
All right, Robert and Jean, this is y'all's end of town. Why don't you speak to that?
Could you show us the area in question again, Kate, please? And I don't know which slides would best be able to.
Let's see if we have any pictures on the actual application. I'm sure there are. Of the area. It's loading, sorry.
I can only see
Pictures of the existing.
half of the PowerPoint. Like when you open something, it seemed to box out half of
Corey, can you turn up your volume? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess I was just saying, whatever you're trying to pull up, like where your cursor is just a gray box to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that too on the right side.
On the right side, it's a gray box.
Yeah, it's loading. It's still loading.
Yeah, the gray box has been there a while.
Oh.
I think it's when you,
The whole right side of the screen is just gray.
Okay, bear with me just 1 second more. Okay. here. Okay. Does everybody see the map here showing?
Yes,
We do now.
Okay,
Yeah, now.
now we got something. There
So
you go.
this is for some, well, you asked for the area. Okay.
Okay, now, would you show us the area in question?
For the garage, for the setback, or for the
Fence. The
The
fence is the
fence?
thing in question right now, right?
yes. Okay. So the fence. And so we did have the details on the fence as well. Because I did ask about spacing and everything, and what was previously approved. And so they did send over this information, and that they'd worked through it with Austin too, and on the previous submittals.
And which neighbor is bringing up the issue at this point? Which location? Which house?
I didn't write it down when she said it. Did anybody else hear?
It's behind it.
Thought she was on Middle Street.
241 Middle.
241 Middle.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
guys.
the one behind it.
I don't mean to make you dizzy here.
the one that faces the street.
So up here.
Yeah, yeah. That's the yellow house, isn't it?
Yes, I believe it is yellow. So the 6-foot fence really blocks off any view they might have of the harbor, but I don't see where they'd have a view with that house there anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's a
And
matter of privacy for both pieces of property, and an important piece of privacy fence.
That might have been what was why it was approved last time, but I didn't read those minutes. I just spoke with the applicant on the recent submittal, so I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Can I speak again, or is this is James Heltelli again with Hurlong Architects?
You would need to be addressed directly by the board
Okay.
for any questions.
I
So
can
Kelly, do you have some comment on this?
Just that it was previously approved, and I'm very surprised that this would be something that you'd go back into now after it had been permitted. That photo you're seeing is of the house that was there previously. So we're not taking up any more across that view of the harbor. And as you said, it already sort of covered that view. The garage was added, and that is down what would be in that sort of lower right corner. Right in there. And that extends a little bit further towards the east property line. But both of those items were things that were previously approved. So I know the owners, Chris and Jessica Brooker, on, and they're kind of surprised that this is something that's coming back up. We think we're trying to save these two large oaks to the harbor side, and that we hoped we had done sort of a good job to actually reduce the building footprint a little bit, reduced what was a previously non-conforming side yard setback, and think, in general, this is kind of a good thing for the property.
Kate, had there been an appeal or objection prior to the previous submission?
From the neighbor who did speak, yes, she had sent an email. She was looking to get more information, and I was able to send her the links, and she was able to get it. And she, in the correspondence, she had asked that the, yeah, she had asked that it be deferred.
Well, what I'm saying is prior to the initial submission, which was approved by this commission, was this issue brought up.
There was no appeals for the previous one. You know, I don't know if there was any correspondence that spoke to it, but nobody brought an appeal for the approval.
Thank you.
There was correspondence.
However, it was approved. Was it approved by staff or by commission?
For a new house, that would have been a commission approval. And they have, I'm pretty sure they have the date.
I believe it was June.
Yeah, it was before my time.
I thought we saw this last as an alteration, and the original submittal was even further back.
That sounds familiar.
Because I don't think I was a member when this was originally reviewed.
It was originally submitted as a restoration, leaving the very small portion of what was considered historic, but it was financially prohibitive and not really worthwhile to do that. And so these new plans came.
Yes, okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Kate, do you have the date of when the meeting was? Because I can see if I can see it on the minute, if I can look it up.
It's that June meeting.
That would be helpful.
Okay, just 1 second.
It'd be the 8th of June.
2:30.
As in 2020?
Yes, and I was not on the commission then.
Okay, so I'm just doing a quick search. Still waiting on some searching.
In the meantime, I have a question for the applicant. Kate, is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
I was unsure if the new setback on the altered side of the house, is that changed from what the original house had? Like, is that getting closer to the property line?
The, let's see, the portion to the furthest to sort of the northeast corner, which we're referring to as the playroom, that did step about 2'8" to the east, or so getting closer to that side property line. It is still beyond the 10-foot setback, and then there's a small chimney. It will be a direct vent chimney, so it won't be rising out of the roof. That is just a little bit over the setback, and you're allowed by the ordinance to be up to 24 inches over the setback. So we don't feel like we're encroaching. We just, we lost so much square footage towards the harbor side that we were trying to gain back a little bit towards that back. And that side is already kind of screened by where the approved garage was anyway. So we thought that was not a bad spot to put a little more single-story space.
So we had a final review on July 7th, and it was alterations to the harborside fascia and garage.
I have that motion if you'd like me to read it.
Please.
Oh, sorry. Just disappeared on me. There we go. Mr. Crossland moved for approval for the garage, given there is a precedent for accessory structures with adjoining lots in accordance with section 156.212E4 and approval of the fencing with spacing between the slats. Mr. Barber seconded the motion. All in favor?
And then for the final review for the demolition, that was approved on October 14th, 2019, approved as submitted.
Was the Was the motion, though, that I heard that they were going to adjust spacing of the fence, was that something that happened?
I believe that was what was sent back, that drawing you have at the last one
Can you
that
see it? Yeah.
is what was sent into Austin. I'm actually kind of filling in on this project for another architect in my office. So she had submitted that previously and been approved by Austin.
But was this a change from what?
I think that was something that added after the meeting, something that was a discussion point in the meeting, but I'm actually not sure. I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, I guess I'm just trying to make sure that the spacing was adjusted somehow.
Yes, from the motion, it sounds like that was like how you do conditional approvals. It sounds like that was one of those conditional approvals with approval with the spacing. Am I correct, Lynette, from the motion?
That would be correct.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing too.
And your view, Catherine, is that the spacing has been adjusted since then?
That there is spacing. I didn't compare it to the previous approval, but just that they provided spacing. You know, it's.
But it was staff approved as per the motion.
Well, it was commission approved per the motion. It was commission approved.
Subject to submittal and approval of.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. How you've done it before.
Yep.
But I guess the question is, was the conditional approval item, the fence spacing, was that something Austin has resolved, or we're trying to resolve that now?
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's something that was resolved since it did get its COA approval. That was something that Austin, he saw that the plans had been revised in the fashion that he saw fit to meet that approval or to meet the condition. Okay. Yeah, so it says approved with condition that fencing have spacing. That's the exact note on the application. And he sent the COA on July 12th. So I guess, you know, I'm just guessing that that's when they set back plans with the fencing showing spacing, because it took a few days there before it was actually approved.
If there's any other discussion from any other members of the commission that they want to address the architect? If not, shall we ask for a motion? Are you all ready for someone to move that we accept the final review as presented? I don't hear any discussion or a motion. What have we got here?
Is this something that you'd like to be deferred, or if there's any other comments, somebody can put a motion on the. You could motion to defer. You could you know, any motion.
Do you have the do you have what was, I guess I'm just like, I'm a little unsure because I can't remember what we saw that triggered us to ask for the fence to be reviewed. And I just want to see if you have it available, what the previous design was. Because if they changed, like, I mean, it's a 1-inch gap. I'm just curious what it changed from.
Yeah.
Excuse me, does that really make a whole lot of difference as long as what they're presenting now is acceptable?
Well, honestly, I feel like what they're presenting now is like 1-inch gap, and that type of fence is kind of like no gap. It's not like a normal fence you'd see in the old village.
That was approved. Understand.
Yes, if it was approved, I think we're stretching points here and taking people's time.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
the motion could be conditioned to verify approval of the previously approved fencing, if anyone was amenable to that.
That's a good point.
I would be comfortable with that.
All righty. Would you restate that, please?
I was just noting that if you had concerns about the fencing, that staff could verify what was approved and that could be a condition of the motion.
All righty. I move that we accept the 237 Middle Street final review with the addition that the fence investigation be sure of previous fence approval be reviewed for approval.
Yeah, I'll
All right.
second that.
There's a second. Do we hear any? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Good job on the trees.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, as we go on, is there anything else, Kate, you need to bring up before we proceed?
No, that concluded it for me. I'll just come back and be able to look through the applications and verify the spacing for you guys.
Very good, thank you. Staff approvals 304 Morrison Street. You may recall this house is on the corner of Pitt and Morrison, and originally they had their HVAC raised up very high into the air, and it was an affront to the homeowner living directly behind them, whose home faces Pitt Street. The unit has been placed on the ground and has a wooden fence around it, which I imagine will be painted. I would recommend anyone who has a concern go by and look at it, but I have looked at it and it's going to be perfectly fine. And I don't believe, if there were a question about it, I believe the homeowner behind the home at 118 Pitt would have stayed for that. Did Mr. Coleman stay to have any comment on that? I guess not. Any discussion about this?
So these are staff approvals that they're minor work that I had already sent out the COAs on. So I don't think that they get discussion here because it's not an action item.
Well, it's well done. And do we have to move to approve this?
No.
No, there's no moving to approve because in the ordinance you'd written to give this like the minor work for staff approval. So this part is really just like a report to you to let you know what I have approved. But the 204 Live Oak Drive, that's the one that we heard for
Right.
public comment, and that's the one that is going to come back for the next meeting as an appeal of my staff approval.
Very good. Then we can move on to the review of an adoption of the design guidelines for paint.
Is that here? I
Ms.
think.
Montgomery, you've got continued discussion about,
I skipped one.
yes, you did. Yes, ma'am.
Yep, sorry. The viewing site and historic site near Hibbon Street Ferry. There's a letter and correspondence which was sent out to everyone.
So this was something that I was going to come back to you with. I thought with the CLG, Certified Local Government, we would have grants available to us to do projects like this, but for further, looking further into it, grants are not permitted for these types of projects. It's really just for education of the board. So the grants aren't available here. I think the best option for this would be to delegate this project to the historical commission, who I happen to be the staff liaison of as well. They've done, or they've worked with projects like this in the past, the historical markers, teaming up with the transportation department. We did the little parklet on Johnny Dodd's frontage with the transportation department with the one hand Sanders replica and the historical marker. So that might be a better location for this project than for this commission.
Will you send the information that we've gathered to the Historical Commission
Yes.
at our request?
Yes. And so I've worked with the transportation department on projects, so I'm not exactly sure how commissions work together on projects. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. We'll get this a direction going.
Very good.
But I'll present it to them.
We appreciate that greatly. That'll be a big help. And if you want me to be at any of their meetings, I'll be glad to attend. Any of us from our commission will be glad to be there as guests.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll want to hear from you. Okay.
So now we'll go on to the adoption.
Well, wait a minute.
Kath, can I make a
We've got
comment
1
real
minute
quick?
Public comment.
Yeah.
And I won't take long. First, Chris Coleman, 118 Pitt Street. First, I wanted to thank you all for your leadership in working on this program. You've seen, hopefully, some of my emails and some of the really long history stuff I've sent in. It's a great idea, and I wish you well. I'll try and attend with the historical commissions remotely as well, and plague poor Miss Miller there as well.
Thank you very much for your comment. Shall we proceed?
Can I just ask Catherine a question?
Go ahead, Corey.
Well, I guess I just want to bring up the idea of the Mount Pleasant Way project has all sorts of scope. And I wasn't sure if this would fit into that as a possible way, for it to get funds and have it actually happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just like to point out that, and Chris's information that he's provided has encouraged me to do additional research into this area. And there are actually 3 batteries in Mount Pleasant during the period from 1860 through the Civil War. And the most prominent of the 3 was Battery Gary, which was located at the nexus of Schweers Lane. Battery Palmetto is the one that was behind Hibben House, the one that they are focused on. And then there was Battery Evans, which is on Hog Island. The more substantive of the 3 was Battery Gary, which actually started off much earlier and, went through several iterations of name. But it played a much more significant historical role than either of the others. As a matter of fact, if you look on the 1865 map that was submitted by Chris, you will see that it is the only one that is identified as actually having guns. It says at the bottom of the map, batteries not here enumerated have no guns. The only one that is listed is the one Battery Gary, which was named Battery Gary in 1863. Prior to that was known as a Mount Pleasant Battery. And originally it was called the Battery on Hadrils. But, I mean, if we're going to be focused on any of these things, we should focus on all of them. We should not just focus on one particular battery, because all 3 are of significance, and all 3 should be taken into consideration when you're talking about recognizing them, because they all played a significant part in the history of this area.
That's another subject altogether I think we should investigate. But however, what we're working on right now is the ferry landing, which met the trolley cars, and which were on Hibben Street. So I think the battery investigation and historical aspects very interesting. But this, what we're on right now is the Hibben area. But thank you for your input. That was very interesting.
And just a little side note, if you are interested in learning some more about that, the Historical Commission does have an app, and there's some pretty good information and some renderings that we had done of the battery. So I can talk to you more about that afterwards if you'd like.
Very good.
Nice.
Thank you. That's great, Robert. That was super. Now, may we go on to the next item? The design guidelines for paint.
All right, I'm just gonna pull up the guidelines here. Can everyone see my screen still?
Yep.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, you've got
Madam
a,
Chair?
Excuse me.
Yes, I have to excuse myself from this meeting. I have an appointment to get to, so I
Oh.
just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Okay. All right.
See you,
Have
Joe.
a good day. All right.
Thanks,
Take
Joe.
care, everybody.
so the only section that I changed was from what was discussed at the last meeting. I was given a list of paints that you'd like to be listed that would be specifically on the design guidelines as approved materials. And we had discussed, that this doesn't mean that you can't have any other colors, but it does mean that you'd have to go to the commission to ask permission. And it wouldn't be able to be done at staff level for like minor work or anything if they were applying for a color that was outside of the approved materials list. So here I just changed exterior paint colors should be chosen from the list of historic Charleston colors provided in the approved materials list below. And so I have the listed colors that we had decided on here, and so open for discussion.
The main point of this bringing it up was to ensure that these exterior paint colors be the only ones used on the exterior. The Historic Charleston Foundation color chart has some pretty unusual colorings, which would be most not in keeping with the old village. Back in the early days, pigment was expensive. People couldn't afford it. The old homes in Mount Pleasant were either beige, very pale yellow, white, some gray, a couple of the old ones which have been altered with a creosote green or the creosote very dark brown. But to be able to just grab any color from the Historic Charleston Foundation chart and put it on the exterior of a house is not a good idea. So this is why I brought these colors up to everyone's attention in the first place.
Not what we
It's
say.
a good base list.
Pardon me?
I think it's a very good base list,
Thank you.
that people can rely on and say, if I'm good with this, let's go ahead. I frankly don't think we'll have too many people asking us for unusual colors.
But they can ask, right? I mean, these are
They
just.
can ask.
these
They
are
can
just
ask
one-
for
they can-
anything they want.
They can use these without any further approval.
Yep.
But if they want something other than this, it has to be approved.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
And I don't think that will burden us too much with
I don't either.
requests. Do you?
No.
Good. Well, Corey, do you have any comment on this?
No, I think I agree. I guess the only like paint's not gonna be staff level review, we're gonna see it, is that
It was
the aim?
on the chart, at least listed colors.
I wouldn't mind it being staff level unless there's some reason they want to run it by us.
Yeah, so repainting structures with colors chosen from the colors of historic Charleston chart. So that's any of the colors. That's for a non-historic building. For a historic building, this is for the minor list. This would be staff level approval. Would be repainting structures with the same color or closest color from the Charleston colors of historic Charleston. So it is staff level. It is prescribed under the staff level.
I mean, unless you feel something is so far afield, I don't see any reason to bring it to us. Our big issue was that in the colors of Charleston chart, all the interior and exterior stuff was commingled, and that you know kind of slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, these exterior paint colors that we have enumerated as the addition on this website that you're showing, the red, these could be staff level.
Exactly. So if it was a non-historic house and they wanted to repaint their house a totally different color, as long as it's on this list, I could approve it at staff level.
Well,
If it's a historic house and they wanted to repaint their house, they would have to choose either the exact same color, or they'd have to choose a color from this list that's the closest color, and then it would also be staff level.
Very good. That's perfect, Kate. That's excellent.
Okay.
Any discussion? Or is anyone ready for a motion?
Well, wait a minute, you got public comment.
Yes.
Oh,
Chris
I didn't know
Coleman,
you were still with us.
How could I give up on an issue as important as color in the old village? Well, first I want to thank all of you for the difficulty of the endeavor you have been engaged in. I realize how difficult it is to come up with something as personal as color.
You need to restate your name and address.
I did. Chris Coleman, 118 Pitt Street.
Okay.
So I want to generally echo Miss Louisa's statement about the use of historic Charleston Foundation colors as a touchstone for Old Village, because Charleston was really, really rich. And this place wasn't really rich. And those who were really rich here pretended that they weren't. And so the color palettes that you see in the historic Charleston Foundation for historic Charleston often use very expensive pigments that only the really rich could afford. And so when I look at a place like this, and I went and looked at a bunch of old photographs, I'm going, geez, I don't think this color palette has much of anything to do, although I'm not an expert on it in this area. Yeah, I think this is a whole different kettle of fish. I would use a very different color scheme. And the second thing that I would do is that most color schemes in historic districts typically take account of the architectural heritage of the structure that they're being applied to. And so a metric that says that I can apply a colonial color to, say, 415 Church, which is Victorian, is really not what I view as a proper color choice. And if you were to read a Roger Moss, if you were to read some of the other great color historians, you would find that they would never put out something that says, here, use this color scheme. Yeah, because they differed. And we have one type of building here that's unusual, which is actual vernacular structures, not the plague of white things that we've been seeing around here, but actual vernacular structures whose paint and exterior decoration I don't really understand, it could be more on the order of what Miss Louisa says of a creosote green or something like that. But I do think that there is more thought to be put into how to do this best, particularly around architectural design, rather than approving a one-size-fits-all.
Thank you very much. All right, is there any other discussion? Anyone else wish to speak on this subject? Any of the commission members wish to address anything? Well, do we want to have a motion that we accept as presented the amended or the, is it amended, Kate? What would you call it?
Yes, so I just put it as amended, and then it'll just change down here how it says adopted. It'll just change the adopted date.
All right. I move that the paint colors which have amended the paint selection and the guidelines be accepted as presented today.
Second.
What was that?
I say a second. I second that.
Jean,
You made a
second.
motion, right?
Do I have any ayes?
Yes.
Aye.
Any nays? All righty, well, that has been declared unanimous. Okay. On to the discussion of historic district expansion.
So I'm bringing this back to you because I had a suggestion from my supervisor to really get a group of properties together rather than doing anything piecemeal. We're going to have to pay, or I'm going to have to work with SHPO on redoing the surveys because you can't designate without the surveys. So really getting a complete list before we start that endeavor. So instead of just starting with the Friendship AME Church, I wanted to bring this back to y'all as a discussion to give me a larger list.
All righty. We're to gather the list, or your people are going to gather the list?
I was thinking maybe y'all had some other suggestions in mind. I could look into some other properties as well, but I have lived here for a little over 10 years, and I know you've lived in Old Village forever, so we could work together on it too. But I know that your knowledge is probably better than mine. I can come back to you with some that I think too, but I thought this was a good opportunity to start, list some places we're thinking of, and I can come back to you at the next meeting.
All right, if you'd like to contact me between now and the next meeting for further discussion and look-see, I'll be glad to go with you.
Okay.
Give me a buzz.
Okay.
Any other commission members want to say something?
Well,
I think it's a good idea to make a more comprehensive list instead of addressing it piecemeal.
I think so too. Definitely a good idea.
well, I guess I have a question about how, if you don't have a team of people like Louisa, like, how are we going to find these properties without having like the trained eye look for them?
Yeah, that's a good point. So right now we are in the middle. We just began some meetings with the settlement task force, and so that's actually that was something that town council had directed for us to possibly look outside of the district, creating new historic districts. So I've been sitting, I sat in on the first meeting, I'm going to be sitting in on the second meeting. So kind of, I guess I'll just be learning of potential properties that way, but I don't actually know, Corey. I think I'll have to get with my supervisor and see what she says, how I can best get y'all some info there.
Yeah, because I see other, I see properties, within old Mount Pleasant, within inside of Coleman, and I'm like, that looks like that's been there a long time, but I don't really know.
Mhm.
So like I don't know if we need to just like generically like look at an area, because the town's huge,
Mhm.
I feel like we need to compartmentalize it somehow. But that's my only thoughts.
Well, Robert made the most interesting point during one of our discussions on what was historic, what was not, what should be considered. Is it distinctive? That was the most, that was wonderful, Robert. If it's distinctive, that makes a difference. I have seen a couple of, in fact, at 606 Summon Street was recently torn down, and that was a great example of a workman's cottage. It was right next to Ellis Street, the corner of Ellis and Simmons, but so many of those are already gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the push why we're doing it now. Why town council directed it for now. Because yeah, so much of it is gone and been torn down, but we still have some.
Yeah. Okay, well,
identifying that's
would we be able to just, I mean, is it too big of a scope to just have someone who the town contracts with just look at everything inside of Coleman to see if there's anything worth being labeled?
So I'll look into that. I know we do have resources since we are a certified local government. Grants available. I'll have to look into that and see what's possible. And if we can't do it through grants through the CLG, which that's pretty much the whole idea of being certified, that would be something I'd have to put in front of the finance committee, and we'd have to ask for funding. But yeah, I'd have to come back to you.
That's an interesting point. I don't present myself as an expert, but I did study with the Historic Charleston Foundation and had courses through the Winterthur Museum in Delaware. So I've got an eye for architecture, and because most of the architecture we studied was early 1800s. But I'd be happy to work with anybody, just from a layman's point of view. But I think you do probably need someone with a degree of their ideas of the late 1800s and early 1900s, say up to World War II.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's some like really well preserved like post-war housing in Old Mount Pleasant. Like there's whole like Atlantic. There's a whole stretch there of the little block houses that were built.
Right.
So I don't know if something like that is a target. But I mean, we could try to find things ourselves, but it might, not be the most efficient way to do it.
Particularly those that still have the asbestos siding on them.
Well, some were just block.
Yeah.
Some have been bricked, and there are some with the asbestos siding. There's like a variety of this. Basically, it's the same exact house.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alrighty, well,
it would take a professional, like looking at Sanborn maps. I know that's part of it too. So that's just some digging I'll have to do for y'all, and just talk to the SHPO people, CLG people, and see what they've done with other governments, how to get that started.
That's perfect. And Kate, you've lost me. I don't have the meeting anymore.
Oh.
What?
I still see it.
I'm just looking at. Do I need to rejoin or something?
It shows that you're in the meeting.
Well, I don't see y'all. I just see the email from Lynette.
Oh, no.
Did you,
Let me click here to join the meeting.
did you minimize it?
I didn't touch it.
Yeah.
I promise.
Oh, no. Yeah, try and click on the icon,
Well,
the
wait a
meeting
minute.
icon.
I'm continuing on the browser. I'm initializing.
All right, well, now Miss Louisa is tapping back in May the public comment for a moment.
We have, no, I don't think we've done public comment. Are we ready for public comment?
I don't know. I've got a white screen in front of me now. All right, I'll be blind. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
So I'll take I don't think I'll take 3 minutes, but first.
We can see you,
all the
Louisa.
things
I'm back.
I've seen, Chris Coleman, 118 Pitt Street, and I always forget to say that. I can't think of anything that's more important that this group is doing than to find and preserve some of these places, because they are disappearing at a rate that is astonishing. And some of them predate the war, some of them don't. But they are very distinctive. And Kate, you had sent me gee, there's this little group of homes down toward the end of Pitt, and I walked down the long way from me from 118 to look at them, and I said, oh, okay, I understand. I see what you see here. There are 5 or 6 houses, but these will be gone. And if there is a time to look at in working with the communities that live there to preserve these things, that time is now, and it needs to be done. And there's a lot of work to do. Many of them are outside of the Coleman Boulevard area. Scanlanville, all of you know, the Phillips community, 6 Mile. There are a lot of these communities in this town, and they will be wiped off the map without action by this town to preserve them.
Would it potentially be possible to create a new district that isn't contiguous, but is basically all the settlement communities, and so that they can be treated as a group and with under the same set of possible new guidelines and requirements?
Yeah, Corey. So I think that's the direction that town council was trying to move in, and really, I was trying to kind of figure out, in the meeting too, what that would even look like, what kind of historic district they would want, guidelines, things like that. But yes, that's definitely under your purview. And that's a project that, we can continue with this discussion on, creating new historic districts or preservation districts.
I don't know about the rest of you folks, but I'm not sure I'd be comfortable in a position of influence over any historic district other than this one. That's the only one I know and understand. I don't think I'd feel comfortable making evaluations and determinations for instance, the Black historical areas further north of here. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I think it makes more sense for it to be like a separate district with its own commission.
Yeah.
Out to the Phillips community.
So if I can just add, I think that's kind of what Kate was alluding to, is that the settlement task force will be looking at is kind of shaping how something like that may, if it makes sense for those communities, and as well as what that might look like. And then once we have those recommendations, then kind of moving forward and saying, okay, so here's how we can actually implement what is desired throughout those different communities, and how that works in conjunction or in coordination with the Historic District Preservation Commission.
Thank you, Lynette.
We do have an area called Moultrie Heights, which is up on McCants Drive. It's on the other side of what we call the Indian Village. I don't know whether that's an honest to God name, but where the names of Pocahontas and Powhatan and but there is Moultrie Heights already named as a section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there's a bunch of neighborhoods like that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of comfortable with the stuff on this side of Coleman. Once you get to the other side of Coleman, it's like it's, there's a different history, a different set of considerations that I think the people who live there are more in touch with.
Okay.
All righty. Well, so we've kicked that horse a lot. Any other discussion? Well, shall we go to the adoption of 21 rules of procedure bylaws? Kate, I've still got a very funny looking screen. It's a square with people's names down the side, and I can see all 4 people plus you with your hand on your cheek.
I'm sorry. Oh God, I hate when that happens.
They were frozen.
Yeah, y'all were frozen. The chosen frozen.
Can you see us now? I've got the
Right,
presentation.
no, but I see the agenda.
See the agenda.
On the right hand side.
Louisa, that's actually a copy of the rules of procedures.
Yeah,
Right. Well, you're right.
Procedure.
Okay, great. That's what I want you to see. I haven't changed anything from last year's rules and procedures. It's all the same unless unless you would like to bring it back on the next agenda and change something. I have it on the meeting here just as adoption of the rules as they were.
Very good. Has everybody studied those thoroughly and decided whether amendments be needed?
Is there an opportunity for public comment?
We could do public comment after.
That's fine. I will happily wait for the Roberts Rules of Order direction.
So questions to me on this, and then public comment you can ask.
Okay.
Sorry. No, I'm sorry, I had that wrong.
So Kate, typically on the adoption and the same with the election for the chair and the discussion for next agenda, those are commission items and not items that are like public hearings that would allow for public comment.
Okay, and you know what? I can just figure that out by looking in our bylaws right here. And yes, okay, so this would not be considered conduct of hearing?
Correct. So it's not a public hearing per se item. It's a discussion or approval item that you could have any comments on that would have fallen under the general comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that, Lynette.
That was not made clear to me, so I did not provide a comment on that.
Well, so what is our next step, Lynette and Kate?
It would just be for a motion, or if there was any comment or questions on the bylaws.
Are there any comments or questions about the bylaws, rules of procedure for 2021?
I would make a motion that be approved as they are. I did not see any changes in them.
Second.
So motion's been made and seconded that we adopt the 2021 rules of procedure. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Carried unanimously. Thank you for your input. Next item.
I wasn't aware that y'all had spoken about the election waiting for it to be 5 people. I didn't get an email from everybody with their vote. It's supposed to be a I'm tired. I'm sorry. What's the word? Not unanimous vote.
Secret?
Secret vote. Yes, thank you. It's supposed to be a secret vote. But one of the commission members, I'm sorry, I forgot who emailed me, said y'all wanted to wait until you had 5 members to actually make the decision. Do you want to defer this until the next meeting? You should have 5 members then, because I talked to Christine Barrett and asked to make sure that that was on the town council agenda. So you should have 5 by February. Would you like to defer it until then, or you could message me now as the secret ballot? Let me know how you'd like to proceed with this item.
Kate, when you emailed, I thought everyone had already messaged you. Now, one of our members has been ill, Mr. Hackenberg, and he was out. His seat was over in December, so you wouldn't have gotten a vote from him anyway. So if you heard from, pardon me?
I don't think, I must have missed that email.
Yeah, I didn't hear from you.
Well, we are where we are, and, you know, we did take a vote to wait until there are 5 members, and that should be next month. So after the installation of a new member, I would suggest that we have a secret vote at that point, just because we had previously said, you know, let's wait till there's 5. So
that's very good. How do you do a secret ballot when everybody has to vote during the meeting?
Well, that's why I just asked everybody to email me. That way it's secret. You could, yeah, or, you know, you could email me during the meeting.
In other words, when we have 5 members, we can have a temporary chair in February, and then have the vote go out for the election for a permanent chair come March.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it that way?
Yeah, sounds easy.
Okay.
It's consistent with what we already voted.
Yep.
Months ago.
So we'll defer the actual election for permanent chair and vice chair until March.
Right.
Who is making that motion? Was that Robert or was that Louisa who made that motion?
Robert.
I think, yeah, Robert. And I'm seconding. Do we need all in agreement?
Yes.
Yes, you need to vote.
All in favor.
All in favor of?
Aye.
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 That was easy.
Everybody's pooped.
Kate and Miss Montgomery and Commission, if you all are in favor, we can actually put the election of the chair at the top of the meeting next month,
Very good.
as opposed to doing a temporary chair and then the regular chair. If that's something you guys are amenable to.
Fine.
Well, do we know who the new person's going to be? Are they familiar with us at all?
We won't know who the new person is until after town council tomorrow night.
And this person will be eligible to vote for the February meeting?
Correct.
But you had motioned, you wanted to defer it until March.
I'd like to table that motion.
Let's have one meeting and then we defer till March.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed that. I thought it was just.
I think that's right. Yeah, let's go with that original motion by Robert that was seconded, and I believe we all voted to defer and have the secret ballot in March.
Okay, thank you.
Or at least the results would be by March, because we will vote between February and March, right? Right. Is that clear, Lynette?
That is perfectly clear.
I'm glad somebody's got it good. All righty. So, Kate, may we go to discussion for items for the next agenda?
Yes. So I will be coming back to you with some information that I got from the CLG on district expansion. You and I are going to talk more about that too, and try and get a list together. And the other item that's coming back is the appeal of 204 Live Oak.
Yes,
And that's the other item that'll be coming back to y'all
very good.
next month.
The
Any other-
204, 206.
Sorry?
I had written down, it's 206, isn't it?
No, it's 204.
Okay, my bad.
Mrs. Gagan lives at 206, the lady who was
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I had
exactly.
written. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Kate, I have one item for you that I don't know where that's or if it's anywhere. It's just something for you, actually.
Okay.
A couple of months ago, we had an item come up that had to do with porches and stoops. And in the guidelines, it says, see approved materials list.
Mm-hmm.
There is no approved materials list for patios, porches, and stoops.
Great.
So we might want to add that. It was kind of hard to figure out.
Yeah,
Is
we,
this the one at Pirates Cruise, the concrete porch?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I looked it up. We hadn't, nothing to refer to.
Yeah, I was against that one.
Except for it was the existing materials that they wanted to use, so it was tough to turn down.
so that we would need to change the guidelines, right? Added approved materials list. So I'll just come back to you with discussion on materials and possible adoption to add that to the guidelines.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, we just can't have something that says see approved materials list and there isn't one.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
I mentioned it to Austin. He wasn't terribly interested, apparently. So we got to get that done.
Yeah,
Yes.
good
Okay.
idea, Robert.
Okay. I'll put a star next to it.
May I bring up something, please, ma'am?
Mm-hmm.
The original town hall, which is the small building on Bank Street that is behind the old Patchens Post Office, the town hall does not have any designation of its history. There is a marker on the side of on the left side of the front door saying who the gentlemen of council were at the time and the name of it. It was dedicated and named to Skeeter Benton, Conrad Benton, who was our one-man police force in the 50s. But there should be an historic marker. Now, whether that should go to the other commission or that should come from us, but I had one of our older ladies come to me with that point, and I'd never figured that out. But yes, we do need an historic marker for that building.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely something for the historical commission, and that that's surprising. But I'll have to get with you on that, and then another request to that commission.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It was the town hall until the brick structure that was on in the park facing Wilden Street, when that was destroyed by Hugo.
Mm-hmm.
The little brick building was the original town hall, and I have pictures of Mayor Coleman and his members, what do you call them, council members, in that building.
Yeah, that'll be good to have. We can add that to the website, but I'll get with you outside of that. So 204, we have the appeal, add guidelines, approved materials list for porches, stoops, and patios. Was that was, it's one of the, it's in here, right? It's like a separate section.
It's on page 26 in.
Yeah, porches and stoops, okay. And then CLG research. And then those are for the historical commission. All right.
And also for the historical commission, I think, I would like to take up next time the suggestion that the 3 batteries be recognized with historical indications on site.
Some sort of indication, right?
But that's the historical people there. But I mean, it's clear there are some 3 historical batteries that should be recognized.
The gentleman who leads tours and people are riding the little Segway machines, he should have that information so he can share it with his tourists that he's guiding through the village.
And I'd love to get that contact information too, but that'll be all, that's outside. I'll get that from you later.
All right.
Yeah,
And-
Mr. Crossland, that's not something that we necessarily need to discuss with this commission. We can
No.
just go ahead and take that request straight to the historical commission.
There you go.
I
Very
have it.
Do that. Excellent.
Good idea, Robert. I have a concern about people who have a business and yet they've got a sign promoting their business with the name, address stuck in their front yard. I did bring this up to Kate and that sign has been removed. But the homeowner on Bennett Street had his insurance company sign stuck next to his front fence for weeks. So we have to make sure, I guess that's just a matter of all of us on the commission keeping our eye open and seeing that that does not happen.
That is against the bylaws, isn't it?
There's nothing in the bylaws about having your advertising your business in your yard with a fence, with a sign.
So we don't have a purview over monitoring that or changing that?
Should it be added to signs? Talks about the scale,
Yeah, there is
the
signs.
material. Placing it sensitively, do not obscure or damage architectural details, match the design with the architect, should be harmonious, but it doesn't say don't put it in your front yard if it's your business.
Wow. How do you go about adding that?
And look at the signage thing that I did for continuing education through Virginia. That's all in there.
But I thought in residential uses, there is like limited home business use allowed.
Yes, there is.
So I guess if it's a permanent sign, it would have to follow the provisions, but if it's just, yeah, I don't know.
Temporary would be like constructor signs.
Right, construction sites is okay. Real estate signage is fine. Those are all temporary. But I just think it needs to have a clause in the signage section that businesses cannot be displayed. Signage cannot be displayed in the homeowner's property.
So I need to check on the, what the sign ordinance says for that. I'm not sure. I don't know what it says for that. So that, do you want signs, discussion of signs?
Well, that would be
section?
determined by the zoning, I believe.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I have to look up what the ordinance even says about, what's permitted by signs.
Well, if it's in the zoning, we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, okay.
Very good. Well, someone asked me about it, so I felt I had to ask you all. Okay. Anything else? When will the next meeting be, Kate? You have a date?
Yes, it would be February
Hey,
8th. Yes, February 8th. That sounds good. Yep, February 8th.
The next meeting will be held February 8th. It will also be virtual.
Yes, as of right now, yes.
All righty. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
we don't need a motion for that, do we?
I move we adjourn.
You can just adjourn the meeting if you'd like, Ms. Montgomery.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I'm going to use my pitiful privilege and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Enjoy the football game.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Hey, Kate. Oh, I lost her.
Bye, Lynette. Good job.
Bye. Thank you, Ms. Montgomery.
Thank you for keeping us straight. Lord knows we need it.